Cloud? Sorry to say it, man, but Cloud is never going to be in Smash. Sora has a much more higher chance of being in Smash than Cloud. Even though Sora has a minuscule chance, still way higher than Cloud. Cloud has only been in one Final Fantasy game, and that's Final Fantasy VII, which came out on the PS1. Sora, on the other hand, has been in just about all the Kingdom Hearts games, and 4 of them have been on Nintendo. So I think Nintendo is going to go with a character that's actually been on a Nintendo console. Cloud's been on PlayStation, Sora's been on Nintendo and PlayStation. But still. Now off of what you were saying about fucking elephants. What you were saying about Kingdom Hearts 3 with the rides, that has actually gotten a name. It's called the Attraction Flow. And that's based off of the flow motion from Dream Drop Distance. In Dream Drop Distance, we could bounce off the walls and do all these crazy attacks. That similar feature is going to be applied to Kingdom Hearts 3. You're going to be able to flip around, do a couple of attacks, and then eventually, if you do enough of those, you'll build up your energy enough to bring out these crazy amusement rides. You know, the pirate ship and the teacups, whatever it is. Another cool feature for Kingdom Hearts 3 is the Keyblade transformations. We've seen 2 so far. We've seen the dual-wielding pistols. What am I doing? Dual-wielding pistols, I guess. And the Olympus Coliseum one, which was like a chariot being pulled around by a Pegasus. There was lightning everywhere. That one looked really cool. That being said, there's going to be tons of different new things in Kingdom Hearts 3, and it's going to be awesome. So, Colin, if you're wondering how I know all this cool stuff about Kingdom Hearts 3, I haven't been like tracking down every news article, interview with the game's developer. I get 90% of my knowledge for Kingdom Hearts news from the Gamers Joint. If you guys haven't heard of this, he's a fantastic channel. He's very popular. So if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan, I don't understand how you could have found us before finding him. But Colin, if you haven't heard of this guy, he does a lot of videos of like news of the new stuff for Kingdom Hearts 3. He did a lot of videos on like mods for Kingdom Hearts 2, and he just posts a lot of funny stuff. He's got like top 10 lists for Keyblades and worlds and all this kind of stuff. I'll leave a link for him. He's definitely worth a look. You should probably check him out. So, for Colin's question, he asked me to do a timeline for a game, but he didn't tell me what game. And I mean, he said it was a big timeline, lots of games, and I'm not exactly sure what he said, but I mean, I'm just kind of like looking through my games. Crash, that doesn't have very much of a timeline. Kingdom Hearts, he already did. Sly, pretty straightforward. I don't know why I need to outline it. Ratchet and Clank, I don't know very much about Ratchet and Clank. Jak and Daxter, timeline is pretty simple. The Jak 2 is a little complex, but it's not that bad. I don't know. What? Of course. Zelda! Hut, Kya! The Zelda Timeline is one of the most convoluted, crazy-ish timelines that there is, like, ever. There's so many games, and they're all so different. They're all so, like, personal. Like, each story can stand on its own, and then to lump them all together in one timeline, it's crazy. It's crazy! So, for the Legend of Zelda Timeline, it's actually not one timeline. It is a branch of 3 timelines. It starts as 1 and then splits off into 3. It's crazy, I know. And another thing is, the timeline doesn't even go in order with the games. Like, the games are all jumbled up. Like, the first game in the timeline is Skyward Sword, the newest game. It's crazy. After Skyward Sword is the Minish Cap and Four Swords Adventures. I'm not sure. One of the 2. And then after that is Ocarina of Time. See, when we get to Ocarina of Time, that's where things get a little crazy. Because you play as a child and an adult in two different timelines. And they each have their own ending to the game. Thus producing the child timeline and the adult timeline. But something that is a little bit more mysterious is the Fallen Hero timeline. Like, in this scenario, Link dies. Like, he fails to defeat Ganon, and Ocarina of Time, and now there's a whole new timeline. It's like, it's just so crazy. In the Fallen Hero timeline, we begin with A Link to the Past, and then move on to, I believe, Oracle of Seasons and Ages, and then after that, I think it's Zelda 1. I'm not 100% sure what the order is, but it's most of it is the old NES games, besides Oracle of Ages. I know that one's in there, and that one's kind of newer. And then the newest one on the 3DS, A Link Between Worlds, also fits somewhere in there, but I'm not sure exactly where. So, moving on to the adult timeline. In this timeline, Hyrule is flooded, and that begins Wind Waker. After Wind Waker is Phantom Hourglass, and you actually play as the same Link, like same character from Wind Waker takes place in Phantom Hourglass. Then, one generation later, there's actually some reoccurring characters, is Spirit Tracks. And lastly, we have the child timeline. In this timeline, when Link is a child, he chases after Navi the fairy and gets lost in the Lost Woods and ends up in Termina, Termina? I'm not really sure. But that is Majora's Mask. It's the same Link from Ocarina of Time. And then after Majora's Mask is Twilight Princess. And then after Twilight Princess is the other Four Swords game. It's either Four Swords or Four Swords Adventures. I don't know which one it is. But that is it for the child timeline and for the adult timeline. One other game that I'd like to mention that is not technically in the timeline is Hyrule Warriors. This is a Dynasty Warriors style of Zelda. If you're not familiar with Dynasty Warriors, look it up. It's a beat-em-up game where you just hack and slash away and you can kill as many enemies as you want. It's pretty awesome. Now for the Zelda game, it's said that it's not in the timeline, but if you look at the characters in the game, primarily, throughout the whole thing, all there is Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time, and Twilight Princess, and then later Majora's Mask as DLC. But even with the DLC, all of those times can be placed in the child timeline. Therefore, if they wanted to, they could simply place Hyrule Warriors in the child timeline, maybe taking place after either Twilight Princess or the Four Swords game. Could work. I mean, it's plausible. So that pretty much wraps things up for my Zelda timeline. If I missed anything, Colin, feel free to fill in the gaps. Otherwise, my question for you, or what I would like you to briefly talk about in your next video, you don't have to if you don't want to, but how do you feel about audiobooks? I've been thinking about getting one, or downloading some onto my phone, because as you know, I drive a lot, and I did this in the past, but I'm thinking about doing it again. But do you feel like they're cheating? Like it's not real reading? I'm just looking for your opinion. Or off of that, do you know of any good books I should read/listen to? I'm thinking about looking into Maze Runner and also the Percy Jackson series. I know Percy Jackson is supposed to be like a kid's book, but then again, that's how Harry Potter started, so I'm not completely opposed to giving it a shot. That being said, that's going to do it for my video, and I will see you on Friday. Have a good one. Why did I salute?